Dear trading friends, that was just the 8th take of me starting this video because I made so many mistakes in the very first sentences and I didn't want to just edit them out. It's been a bit exhausting because for the past 2.5 days, I've actually been working on getting everything ready for the Signal group that so many of you have been asking for. And it's going to be super exciting. I can tell you that. It'll be ready in the next few days as well. I still want to come up with something. As I said, and as I also discussed with you on Telegram, there will of course be benefits here for those who have registered on the exchange using my link. And while we're at it, there's still a 15% deposit bonus at Bitget for new signups and a VIP 2 trial. You can see it here. It won't be available for much longer. If you're interested, you can still secure it for yourself here. You can get up to $750 with a deposit of $5,000 and also receive VIP 2. But that's not what today is about. So I want to give you a quick update on the new positions, on the trades. What I lost, I shared it on Telegram, but also where I'm profitable everywhere and what's currently looking really good. I closed my Bitcoin long position, which I had actually already opened here and which hadn't done anything for such a long time yesterday at this candle. You can see it here. There was my closing candle and then it went down. There are reasons for that. I also additionally opened a short grid trading bot for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that was also roughly in this price range. And that's also currently nicely in profit. And apart from that, things are looking very, very good as well. I want to go through a few positions with you. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge, XRP, HBAR. I found something else with XLM, and I think that's it already. For me, these are the most valid zones, which I have already thoroughly analyzed in detail using the liquidation heat map without having to explain everything to you in a video at great length about the reasons why. Now I'll show you where my entries are and how I plan to proceed. By the way, current positions, I'll show you that briefly on Telegram. Guys, as I showed in the last videos, I had 2 or rather 3 stop losses hit on XRP. Here I also shared on Telegram that it really happened that way. Unsure where. Once, twice, 3 times. We'll check it on the chart. I've also prepared a new long trade for XRP. Actually 2. But otherwise, Doge is doing super well in profit. I'll show you now today's update. I even warned beforehand saying there are CME gaps here. One here and another further down. And I'm targeting the second CME gap. I've also sold step by step in spot here with Bitcoin. We've now reached the CME gap at the moment. A bit below it, we'll see that in a moment. We hit resistance and are currently continuing to move downward. Maybe we won't reach it either. I don't want to call for it now, but for me, it's still an interesting zone. At the same time, we also have a lot of liquidity lying below us. With Ethereum, we also have a CME gap here, which at the same time, and this is super interesting, we'll go through it, is at a 0.786 and a 0.681 Fibonacci, and there's also a liquidation cluster here. And apart from that, Doge is now at 50% trading profit. Zcash is a trade with 174% profit. The bots are at 57% profit. The CC bot is over 20% profit. Otherwise, I also have XRP, ADA, and Ethereum all in profit as well. At the moment, things are looking very good considering I recently took a few stop losses, but that's part of trading. What does it look like now? First of all, let's pay attention to the second CME gap that we still have open. That's the New Year's CME gap, which goes up to a price range of about $88,200. That's where I'll be buying back a bit of spot from what I sold up here. I sold spot 3 times. My average selling price is around 92,800. That's already well in profit now. And down here, I'll buy back in again so I can generate a few $1,000s in profit here. That's the very first thing. But what do we have here? 88,800 to 88,200 US. Let's go to the liquidation heat map. Let's zoom in here. But it could also continue to develop downward to as low as 88,776. And that's why I say the CMI gap is still possible for me at the moment, a borrowed level so that it can be reached. Where do we have that? 88,000, what did I just say? Around 766, where the liquidation is. At the same time, we also have 88,250 here, which is about the lower end, and 88,373. That's the 0.618 Fibonacci where I want to enter my very first trade again. I'm not ready yet. I'm telling you to trade the 89,000 here. Although that would be very valid if we look at where this level is roughly after we've had the breakout. But I have too much liquidation below me and this here as well, which will be my first Bitcoin long trade again and which I will actively enter. If I don't get it, that's not a problem either, but that's how it will look where my long position and my stop loss are. Let's move on to Ethereum. I've also marked something interesting here, which I've already shared with you in the Telegram group. Here we really have an ultra brilliant level. What's so brilliant about it here? Here we have the 0.786, let me zoom in a bit, and the 0.618, so a short-term and a mid-term Fibonacci, which align exactly at this point. So for me, this is a very valid level. In this case, though, I also have a reason to say that I'll use a stop loss and take on a bit more risk instead of using my red line at the 0.73984 Fibonacci as my stop loss. Why am I doing it this way here? If I look at the liquidation heat map on a 2-week basis, we can see in model 3 of the liquidation heat map that there's significant liquidity here, roughly between 2,884 and 2,880, which we shouldn't ignore. And I'm just below that. If this stop loss gets triggered, that's okay. Then I'll open a new position here if we see a reversal. But at the same time, this will also become a new trading bot range for me, which I find super interesting. But this is the very first level that I personally will be trading on Ethereum. Not just because of that. Take a look at the price, around $2,976 US. I'm going back here. Let's take a look at it. Where is the Ethereum CME gap? And here too, we have it exactly in the area of 2,993. Within the network, that's where the CME gap is, the New Year's CME gap, which is still open in that area. A little wick down here could still trigger this last liquidation. Then we might see a reversal. As long as we don't make a lower low. That means this is what things currently look like for me with Ethereum. Then I also prepared a little something else. For example, that's Dogecoin. After this massive pump in Dogecoin, and I'm also short on Doge, which is currently about 50% in profit, actually a bit more, I took the short entry here. I also shared this in the last videos. And in this case, my stop loss is already at break even. Here I will close my position, roughly around 0.13581 or so. I would probably close a bit earlier here, where we have this support. I told you we have a pretty good level here, which previously acted as both support and resistance. In this case, resistance twice, here a whole support zone, and that's where I will most likely close the short position, unless we really go further down. But that's my very first scenario. At the same time, I'm preparing myself so that I can enter with Doge down here. Then at least at the 0.618, maybe even at the 0.5, I would open a new long position. There just isn't enough liquidity below us yet, which is why I haven't placed it yet. But with XRP, I already have. You can see it, XRP, this massive breakout, and XRP really kicked my butt. I said I would go in here short, but unfortunately it didn't work out. I went short at 0.618, I went short at 0.5, got stopped out everywhere, even though it was really close. That's just how it is, it's part of trading. I thought it would end somewhere around here for a short time, but that didn't happen in this case. Accordingly, we're now in the price range. So this strong breakout, and I actually already removed it from down here, this Fibonacci, and now I've pulled it up to here. So I would say here is the 0.5 and here is the 0.618 Fibonacci for a new entry. What bothers me a bit here, and I want to mention this, is that I'm basically trading blindly now. I'm placing this Fibonacci in case we get a reversal. I don't want to completely miss out on that. But what I also find very interesting here is that exactly where my stop loss is, we would have had a strong rejection zone. I'm still letting it run like this. I'll see how the market reacts. But at the current moment, as you can see, I've already entered. Let's see what happens and on to the next point. And I'll be boarding again at 0.618. With XRP, I'm also aiming for something else. That's where we find the first large, really strong cluster in the liquidation heat map, located at 20,479. This is very interesting to me as a possible reversal. And that lies in the range between 0.5 and 0.618. Fibonacci. So this is how it looks at the moment. And as I told you, after such a strong breakout, I wait for a pullback to the Fibonacci levels where I will enter my long positions. And after that, and it won't end there, I might even extend my take profits. But I'll let you know how I'll proceed in detail when the time comes. HBR looks just as interesting to me if we take a look at it now. I had a strong breakout without any significant major pullback. And that's exactly why I'm using this price breaker right now. So from this low to this high, I'm currently trying to open my positions here. I just hope that this area here won't be it, so that we're at the bottom and that I don't end up getting stopped out a second time at the 0.618 Fibonacci. No, but this looks interesting to me. At this point in time, if we go further down, I have another entry at the 0.618 as well. Of course, I'm aware that I could get stopped out here. The second thing we have, which is super exciting for me, here with Cardano, where I also opened my long position very low here, we've reached a very good high. We're currently correcting down into this price range here. And what do we have here? The 0.5 Fibonacci, 0.618, but take a close look. I'm not going long here at the 0.5 Fibonacci. Why am I not doing that? Because I also analyzed this again using the liquidation heat map here. And we can see here with ADA at 0.37975, there is a very large cluster, which is also shown to us very clearly by this line. And accordingly, in my case, I set 0.38 as my entry zone. That's right here, just below the 0.5 Fibonacci where I think we could go. I hope we don't go any further down there, but almost at the same point as the entry, we have a fair value gap. And that's exactly a multiple confluence for me, which I see as a probability that we could get a reversal here. My entry is just above the fair value gap. At the same time, the liquidation heat map here shows a strong cluster where we will hopefully get support. And if this support holds, then of course this long position upwards is excellent. And I even have a better risk reward ratio because I have a lower stop loss and a higher take profit. And my risk reward is 1 to 5.91. The second one is simply the 0.618. Here again, we see that there is still a small fair value gap open right at this entry, so that would also be a possibility. Then all that's left is to hope that we don't go further down. Because we also have one at 0.786 here and another one here as well. I think I also entered XLM. Exactly, we're also in XLM right now. It also had such a strong, good breakout. Really, it just went up without much hesitation. We had a 30% pump here, which is really very nice. And right now, in this case, this is a nice level for me, a really good level. At least here at this rejection zone is the 0.5 Fibonacci. If that doesn't hold and we actually trigger the 0.618 here, then I'll go long again here as well. Other than that, I don't have anything else open right now. Aster Long has been open for quite some time, and otherwise there really isn't much else. But Zcash, guys, finally. Zcash really took its time. Up here on the 4-hour chart, it just lingered for a long time. But now 170, so far more than 170% profit on the short position. But also the trading bots I opened here, they're doing well in profit too. And CC from the live stream, it's consolidating a bit here, has about, it's 12% or 20%, I'm not exactly sure right now, but this grid trading bot is also running up to this point. And then the take profit will be triggered provided that happens. Of course, I'm keeping an eye on it, but at the moment we're making lower lows and lower highs. I just have to be careful here. In this case, the next Fibonacci zone is coming up soon at 0.5. And if we get support here in this area, then that's definitely a sign for me that I might close the bot or move the stop loss. Set it to my entry price so that I don't end up taking a loss here. Otherwise, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. A bit of out-of-the-box trading, yeah. So I'm not just following the crowd with what I do here, but really trying to provide neutral market analysis. And otherwise, I'd of course appreciate it if you leave a like and a comment under this video, because that helps boost the algorithm a bit. Because I'd really love for my videos to reach a lot more people. See you then.